Good day, dear students. In the previous class, you have learned about the formation of Dalit literature in India and how people really thought about fighting for their existence in the independent India, and to fight the caste system they have to use more and more weapons and not the already used weapons. This is why they thought of using literature or writing as the best weapon to fight back the caste Hindus and remove their oppression, so that naturally they will be treated as the mainstream and not the marginalized. In part 2, you find more about Dalit literature. Dalit literature is experience based. It is autobiographical, hence, Anubhava or experience takes precedence over Anumana, which is doubt or distrust. As I have told you earlier, the people who are writing, Dalits who are writing or creating poems, short stories, or even autobiography, wrote in the language that they used to speak, and they wrote their life experiences. And this is why it became really authentic. This is experience based and also autobiographical. It is not something like a made up story. It is their own true story. Hence, it is experience or anubhava. It is not anumana. It is not something created just for the sake of creating. It is not doubt or distress. It is just experience, first-hand experience of these people. Sharan Kumar Limbale very clearly puts it in this form. He says, Dalit literature is precisely that literature which artistically portrays the sorrows, tribulations, slavery, degradation, ridicule, and poverty endured by Dalits. This literature is but a lofty image of grief. Very clearly, he puts it in these few words. It is a literature which artistically portrays the sorrows, tribulations, slavery, degradation, ridicule, and poverty endured by Dalit. Even in independent India, they had to suffer all this slavery, degradation, ridicule, everything. And it is from there that they created a literature, and it is the artistic portrayal of their sorrows. And hence, he calls it a lofty image of grief, a very high toned image of their sincere grief. It is that which makes Dalit literature appealing. What are the features of Dalit literature? The first is authenticity. Second, liveliness. Third, uses language of the outcast and underprivileged. And the fourth, shame, anger, sorrow, and indomitable hope, which are the sources of Dalit literature. Well, let's take the first one, that is authenticity. They are not writing about somebody else's experience, they are writing about their own experience or the experience of their fathers or forefathers, and as such, they are authentic. And authenticity always comes out best in literature. It appeals to the readers. Liveliness, that is, there is a liveliness about their writing, that also appeals to the readers. The third part is they use the language of the outcast and underprivileged. Like, for example, I hope if you are people who are reading Malayalam literature, you will come across a different type of or a different style of writing and that is the writings of Vaikom Muhammad Bashir, which is not at all like the other Malayalam writing, which is academic and stereotype. And they do not use dialectical variations also. And so this has got more appealing and it is more interesting also. In the same manner, Dalit use the language that they use and the language that they use among themselves. And it is not academic type of writing, and it is not the usual style of writing. It is as such, and so they can express it in their regional languages much better. And that also appeals to the readers. And what have they put into that literature? They have put into it shame, anger, sorrow, and also an indomitable hope. And it is that which makes them continue their fight with literature or even with writing. And they feel that by writing, the others like them will be reading that, and by reading whatever is written about in a similar people in a similar situation, they get educated, and reading increases your knowledge, and in that sense they were able to educate themselves in the proper manner by learning about the people of their own type and who had lived in the same conditions. And so there is an affinity for such kind of literature, and this in turn helped in educating the Dalit. Formation of Dalit aesthetics. Dalit aesthetic means the type of criticism that is used to criticize Dalit literature. You can't use the scale which we use to criticize other European books or even other Indian books. And you have Indian aesthetics where you have rasa, dhvani, and theories of rasa, and a host of critical theories. But all these are rejected by the Dalit and also to judge Dalit literature. Then, revision of texts authored by the caste Hindus, because they have started writing and they are now looking up to the books that are written by caste Hindus, and they have written about the condition of the untouchables. For example, Mulkraj Anand, in his famous novel Untouchable, had written about the condition of the untouchables. But mind you, Mulkraj Anand was not a Dalit writing about the condition of the Dalit. He is writing about the condition of the Dalit in or from a different platform. And as such, the Dalit is revising these texts and how they find that it is not exactly the story of these people, though it is portrayed in a very sympathetic manner, and it is regarded as one of the novels after independence which portrays the condition of the caste system, and it was much popular. And even then, they would like to revise these texts because this is not exactly their life. It is only as seen by the others, and their condition is much, much, much worse. Again, in Malayalam, there is The Scavenger's Son by Tagari Shivashankara Pillai. And in Malayalam, it goes like this: Thottiyude Magan. If you are familiar with Malayalam literature, you will find that this is indeed a remarkable piece by Tagadi, and as such, it was welcomed because it was written to in a sympathetic manner about the condition of the Dalit in Kerala. So, Thottiyude Magan is in itself is something that reveals to you how the society looks on such people. and how degrading it is to have them with you. In households, they are not given a place, and nor can they come much nearer to you. They have to keep a distance. And with the people in the higher with the higher caste, you have to keep much more distance. This is how these people lived even in Kerala. And you have come across the reformation, and also the work done by social reformers. And even then, uh, they have not dared to write anything by themselves. It is only after the Dalit literature becoming popular, and this resulted in the people in Kerala writing about their condition, and thus adding to Dalit literature. So, a revision of texts authored by the caste Hindus becomes an agenda with the Dalit aesthetics. Again, there is an attempt to construct an alternative history with Ekalavya of the Mahabharata and Shambhuga of the Ramayana as the forefathers. A systematic rejection of all mainstream theories of art like rasa, dhvani, and the notions of satyam, shivam, and sundaram. Let's take the first part, an attempt to construct an alternative history with Ekalavya. You have all heard of the story of Ekalavya of the Mahabharata. Ekalavya, who came to Dronacharya to learn archery, and the rejection of Dronacharya saying that he belongs to a lower caste and as such cannot learn what the warriors learn. And so he was not given a chance to learn archery. But Ekalavya, as we all know, made a statue of Dronacharya and started practicing archery, and he became quite an expert in it. And you know what happened when Dronacharya and his disciples were in the forest hunting. Their dog started barking, and somebody used archery, and the dog was silenced. And going in search of this man who had aimed at the dog by merely hearing the sound of the dog, which means that he is a master, much better than Arjuna. And they came upon Ekalavya, and Drona was really surprised, and he was about to congratulate Ekalavya when he turned and found that the others are not pleased with this, because Drona had acclaimed that Arjuna is the best archer, and this Ekalavya is much, much better than Arjuna. So Dronacharya asked for a gift, because as a Guru Dashina, and because he had made a statue of Dronacharya and started practicing before that, and as such, as Guru, he is to get a Guru Dashina, and the Guru Dashina is the thumb of Ekalavya, which means that he will be capacitated afterwards from using his archery weapons. So that is the story from Mahabharata, and the Dalit would like to take up Ekalavya as one of their ancestors, or one of the forefathers, and continue from there. And again, when you there is the story of Shambhuga, which you can read from Ramayana, because now it is the time to read Ramayana, since it is the month of Karkadaga. So better go through Ramayana and find out the story of Shambhuga. So there also you find the similar stories or similar situations, and the Dalit would like to have them as their forefathers. Again, there is a systematic rejection of all mainstream theories of art. Like, for example, there is the rasa theory, dhvani, and again the ideas of satyam, shivam, and sundaram. These were the criteria with which the ancient Indian literature was assessed or, in a way, measured. All these were totally rejected by the Dalit literature because these theories belong to the higher caste and their writing. And it is not at all the theme or the scope of Dalit literature, which is totally different. So, naturally, in order to form an aesthetic, they reject the theories of art, of Indian aesthetics, like the rasa theory, dhvani, and the notions of satyam, shivam, and sundaram. You will be learning about the rasa theory and dhvani in the next semester. So you find that this is indeed the way in which literature is judged or measured against, and you find them really good or bad or up to the certain standard or things like that. And it is totally rejected by the Dalit writers because this has nothing to do with their literature, because their literature is not of the upper caste Hindus but by the Dalits themselves, and they need a totally different type of aesthetics. And this is something that they have to find out. Then the contribution of Dalit literature, according to Jugal Kishore Mishra. You will find in page 112 the 4 points. You have to go through it carefully. I'll just mention it. That is, the creation of Dalit literature became a threat to Brahmanic hegemony from literature. It conscientized Dalit masses for assertion, protest, and mobilization. It stirred up thinking in Dalit intellectuals and catalyzed creation of organic intellectuals of Dalits. Again, the literacy level of the Dalit increased, as a result of which the emergence of Dalit literature, the writers and readers being mostly Dalit, is an evidence of the profound change that is taking place in Indian society. So these are the contributions of Dalit literature. Better go through it carefully and learn it well. Dalit writing in Marathi, because it is from there that the Dalit literature started. I hope you remember the Dalit Pantha movement and Little Magazine, which were the beginning of Dalit literature. Baburao Bagul published his first collection of stories, When I Had Concealed My Caste, in 1963. It took him such a long time to have the short stories and publish it. Sharan Kumar Limbali's autobiographical narrative, Akarmashi, The Outcast, is another epoch-making publishing which really tell us about the experience of an outcast. Arjun Dangle's Poison Bread is the first anthology of Dalit writings in English, published in the year 1992. So, as such, the Poison Bread is also important. From South India, you have writers like Ka Ayodhidas Pandidar from Tamil, and he is a Tamil Dalit writer. And of course, there is Bhama Faustina, who had written the novels like Karku and Sangadi, two novels. She has written more and she is quite popular. But even then, you will find that these were quite famous, much famous, and several people had written papers, and several researches were done on Bama Fastina's writing. Another writer is Pumani, who had written Piraga and Venkai, and these are also popular. There is Meena Kandasamy, who had written two collection of poems, Touch and Miss Militancy. She had also written a novel called The Gypsy Goddess. So these are the publishings from South India. Ka Ayodhidas Pandidar, Bama Faustina, Pomani, and Meena Kandaswamy. From Karnataka, you have a long list of writers. I am mentioning only two here. One is Professor B. Krishnappa, and the other is Dr. Siddhalingaya. From Kerala, you have Poigai Lappachan and Paul Charakka then Kallara Sumaran, S. Joseph, T.K. Vadudala. These are the names of a few writers who belong to the type or who belong to the category Dalit writers. And they have also written in English, and their works are also published in English. Again, you come across the epoch-making present writing, and that is Jutan, a Dalit's Life, published in the year 1997 by Om Prakash Valmiki. I'm sure that you have come across at least an expert from Jutan, a Dalit's Life, because it tells you how Om Prakash Valmiki was treated in the school and how his father was insistent that naturally as his son should get education, and so he was taken to the school to get education. But the teacher, being from a higher caste, was much trouble. He can't let him sit along with the other students, so he asked the boy to clean the ground, and the boy, after cleaning, will remain in the veranda, and from there he used to listen to the teacher and learn from there. He was not allowed to sit in the class. So it goes on like that, like this, and it's an extremely pathetic life that Om Prakash Valmiki presents in Judan, a Dalit's Life. Kancha Ilaiah, another writer, published two works. The first one, Why I Am Not a Hindu. This was published in the year 1996. And he published one more, and that is Buffalo Nationalism. Again, these two works and Kancha Ilaiah himself became really popular with their spirited contribution to Dalit literature and their vehement stand for their own life and for their own society. And they really improved the condition of the Dalit literature, and through literature, their own life pattern. You have in page 113, the last paragraph, which sums up with the question, is Dalit literature a literature of protest only? It is a literature of protest. It breaks shackles and promises liberation, because it is a protest literature, because they are speaking about their condition and in a way protesting against their treatment of the higher caste towards them. And they, by protesting, they are breaking the shackles or the chains which bind them to their degrading condition. And by breaking the chain through writing, they are coming to the forefront and surging ahead. And it promises to be a liberation, because they know that no one will come to liberate them, and the liberation should come from themselves, and it is done not with the other kind of weapons, but only through writing. This is why they used writing as a weapon and started writing and publishing, and the others also started reading and absorbing, and this gave them a lot of hope. And it is with the hope that they continued with their liberation movement. So when you write, it is a protest, and that protest will break the chains that bind you to your age-old slavery, and and it also promises liberation from your condition. A liberation is necessary because you can't forever remain in the margins and you need to be there in the mainstream. It is that which is aimed by Dalit literature and also by the people who formulated Dalit literature and vehemently stood for their condition. And it is in this sense that we can say that Dalit literature had far to go and had really achieved their own stand in society, and it is no longer marginalized, but it is bringing to the forefront their conditions, maybe even after several years or even centuries of suffering. But all these are put into words, and this makes good reading and a proper understanding of their condition. They can never be put to one side or to the margin. They have to be brought to the mainstream, and to a certain extent, they are in the mainstream now, thanks to all those people who had really contributed to the formation of the Dalit Pandar movement and Little Magazine and several other publishings. It started with the Marathi literature, and I hope you will remember that. And the term Dalit comes from Marathi, and it is they who started the beginnings of Dalit literature, which started spreading to Hindi, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, and even to our Malayalam. So let's hope that there will be more coming from Dalit literature, and let's await for the new trends in Dalit literature. And students really go through page 113 and last paragraph, which is really important. Hope you have gone through the earlier portion also and read first and second part together. That is, it is one lesson, Dalit literature. So better read it at one stretch and understand it properly. Okay, thank you.